Um, good morning, everyone, or good evening, everyone, wherever you may be in the world. Thank you all for joining our session today, which will be a session where we will discuss a lot about the new normal, how it affects energy tech investment. But we will also, most importantly, hear from some very exciting startups around their business and also how they're adapting. We have, to start off with, we have a number of questions that we would like to ask the audience, just to get a feel for a little bit around who you are in the audience, and also what you think about the current environment. And from what I understand that somewhere on their app there is a button where you can press for polling questions, and we put up a number of those questions on there. So I don't know if the questions are visible. The first question is really around your role and job. What's your background? Let's see here. I can see. I just trying to see if the questions are up or not. The next question is really, how do you think the new normal affect energy tech? Are we seeing this as something that will set us back, the energy tech community, the investors, the entrepreneurs, significantly? We heard stories around bloodbaths emerging, people are running out of cash, investors pulling back. Is there something on the other side of the spectrum where actually this is a fantastic opportunity, or is somewhere in the middle? We'd love to hear your thoughts on it, given your perspective. So please answer those questions. And a little bit later, in I think 20 minutes or so, we'll reveal some of these the results. Great. So today I would just like to give you a little bit first an overview of the agenda today. It's really set up in two parts, and we can just maybe move to the slide here. Part one, which is today, is really an hour and a half. We want to explore a little bit of this bigger trends affecting the innovation landscape for clean technologies and energy technologies in particular. And we will have Danny Kennedy setting the scene, and following that we will have 9 pitches or snapshots, we call them, from 9 leading startups around the world. And we're very grateful that despite the time differences, we have teams leading startups from all over Asia, but also from the US and Europe, as well as Australia. So we're really covering almost all time zones of the world. So thank you for everyone staying up in the middle of the night or very, very early in the morning. This will be followed by a part 2 tomorrow, where we will have a chance to dig deeper into these companies and their technologies. Today we'll have a 2-3 minute each by each startups, but tomorrow we will be able to dig deeper into what they're doing. We will have around 20 minutes per startup tomorrow, and we will have broken those into 3 different thematic sessions. I'll explain a little bit more at the end of today's session, but the idea today is for you to get a feel for some of these startups, and tomorrow dig deeper and also have a chance to interact with the different entrepreneurs. Starting from that, my name is Daniel. I work for Adb Ventures, which is a new initiative set up within Adb. And I would like just to provide a quick overview of what Adb Ventures is, but also how we relate to the energy tech sectors. As many of you know, that Adb generally has been focusing on larger scale financing, infrastructure financing, larger ticket sizes, generally lower risk. but it was seen that there was a missing gap. Like, how could ADB provide more support and funding for new innovations and particularly early stage technology companies? So we launched Adb Ventures last year internally, and around 2 months ago, we officially launched it and did our first closing of our first fund. It consists really of 3 parts, Adb Ventures. And the first main part is really that we have raised a fund. It's a $60 million fund. It can provide what we call patient venture capital. Our fund life is significantly longer than many other investors, so we can hold and provide support for a longer time if needed. We provide up to $2-3 million at the first check and can then follow on in additional round if needed. The key for us is really looking at the impact they can deliver in Asia, but we are able and willing to support any companies in the world as long as the impact is targeting on our emerging markets. The second aspect or second program we have to support the fund and overall is what we call our seed program. These are smaller checks in the form of what we call reimbursable grants. It's 100,000, 150,000, up to 200,000 if needed, to really provide a quick check or quick money to a company to enter a new market, to validate a new product, or maybe extend the runway a bit. We are hoping to do around 40 of those, 50 of those in the next 2-3 years. And the last program we have is what we call Adb Ventures Labs, which is really around how do we can call it de-risk the market entry for leading technology companies when entering Asia. So we're trying to work on an industry basis, and I will give some examples in a short while, where we match make between large regional adopters and startups from around the world in particular verticals like travel, building, energy solutions for buildings, etc. So those are really the platforms that we're operating today. And it's a very early program, and we're very keen to engage with different stakeholders. Sector-wise, we are focusing really on 4 sectors. Clean tech and clean energy is one of our main sectors, and of course very relevant today. That is a very broad definition, includes sustainable mobility, issues like water, environmental control, as well as more traditional renewables and energy efficiency. We're also looking at sustainable agriculture, or so-called agri-tech, as well as inclusive fintech and healthcare. The key to all of this is that we are looking for solutions that can both provide financial returns and scale commercially, but also provide impact in terms of climate and or gender in developing Asia. As mentioned, we are running a number of labs where we are bringing together 8-10 large corporations in different industries. And together with them, we are looking for and evaluating companies with the aim to really bring those to Asia or help them scale up in Asia through commercial pilots, partnerships, and eventually financing. Currently, this year we're going to do 4 of those, and we have 3 ongoing. We've been running a travel lab with Plug and Play, involves organizations like Hilton, Mining Group, and others. We've been running a water lab with Imagine H2O, which is really looking around water solution across Asia. And maybe most relevant for today, that we're running an energy lab with our friends at New Energy Nexus, where we are working with real estate developers and other stakeholders in the building industry around identifying particularly energy efficient solutions that could be deployed in Southeast Asia. To add additionally about Adb Ventures, one of our key theses is that Adb as a whole has a very significant network across Asia. We work with almost all governments, of course, most large cities, state-owned companies and utilities, but we also work with most large private companies as well as around 400 financial institutions. Adb Ventures is really set up to how do we leverage these networks, both directly and indirectly, to help scale up these solutions faster and at lower risk. The last thing I want to mention is our vision for Adb Ventures. We are currently launching Fund 1. It's up and running, and we're starting to invest in it already. But the plan is really to create a number of you can call it funds or facilities, where we can address certain gaps in the market, particularly on the financing side. And over time, we're hoping to working with other investors, and our thesis is that we will generally not lead an investment. We will work very closely with other leading impact investors, but together create one of the largest impact tech platforms in Asia over the next 5 to 10 years. That's me around Adb Ventures. As I mentioned, we are a new fund. We see ourselves as more than just a traditional investors. We see ourselves also being a convening partner, someone that brings the ecosystem together. We're very, very keen to explore partnerships and collaborations across the spectrum. Obviously, we are looking for leading tech startups, and I want to emphasize what we really want to focus on are those startups that already has a product in the market, but are now looking to scale up faster. We're not really set up or focused on providing funding for pre-revenue or products still in R&D. But companies are beyond that, we're very keen to talk to. Of course, with other investors, we will co-invest in all our deals. We're very open to sharing of deal flow and analysis around markets. We see that as part of building this ecosystem. And last, of course, with this market labs and in other ways, we do want to work with larger corporations who can both help us in understanding this market better and scale up faster. So that's really about Adb Ventures in a nutshell, and I hope you're going to hear much more about us in the coming months. But thank you for that. Next, I really want to hand over word to Danny Kennedy, and I'm not sure if, I think many people here in the room is familiar with Danny. Danny, we have worked very closely with Danny and Nexus for some time. Very, very briefly, and I could go on for a long time to describe Danny's background, but Nexus is one of those very nimble and fast-moving platforms that connects entrepreneurs, leading clean energy entrepreneurs across the world with capital. I think when we first started working with Danny many years ago, it was still very US-centric, but now they really are in Africa, they are in most parts of Asia, Europe, and of course in the US, and really become this global platform for enabling next generation of clean energy startups. As many as you know, prior to that, Danny has been one of these pioneering clean energy entrepreneurs, founded Sungivity, was an early backer of Solar Mosaic, and Powerhouse, which is one of the leading clean tech incubators in the world. And before that, he'd been, I know, for a long time involved in the clean energy and the green community overall. But no further ado, I would like to hand over to Danny, and ask Danny if you could please share your screen.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Daniel, for the introduction. Very kind, and really sorry I am not in Manila at this time. I love coming to the Philippines at this time of year and getting involved in the Asian Clean Energy Forum. Have done it for the last 4 or 5 years. I can't really remember, so it's a shame not to be there in person, but it's a bit of a treat to be with you virtually tonight from California. And able to present some thoughts just to set the scene, as you said, for this conversation. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the startups that are going to present today. Really want to acknowledge ADB for persistently kind of addressing the energy transition through the Asian Clean Energy Forum. It's been a really important space for this dialogue for years. And I think Adb Ventures is a fantastic result of some of that conversation and outcome. So congratulations to you, Yishu, and the others that have set it up this year, getting it going. And, thank you for partnering with us on the Building Energy Challenge too. We're really excited about next week when we kick that off with 10 fantastic startups that we've found and 10 corporate partners in the real estate and building space. So really happy to do that. I'll tell you a little bit more about New Energy Nexus in a bit, but I wanted to answer the call with the scene setter for this conversation. And so I'm trying to move forward my slides here. They're just getting stuck. I think the scene is set in this study, which was just published yesterday. So I'm very excited to be sharing it for the first time with an audience today. The Frankfurt School and UNEP Center produced these numbers over the last decade of actual spend on energy infrastructure. And so in terms of, setting the scene and where the market is going and has been, these are the real numbers, and they are what creates demand for the early stage investing and the creation of companies that we're all involved in through our entrepreneurial support organizations like New Energy Nexus and Adb Ventures. But the big thing to note here is that the clean energy transition is happening at a substantial scale. The dollar values are enormous, and developing countries for the last 5 years have really dominated this market. So the emerging economies, particularly of Asia, have received more than half of all the dollars invested in clean energy for 5 years in a row. And if you strip out China and India from these numbers, they have had a sort of decline over the last couple of years at least. You're still seeing banner years in the rest of Asia, outside of China and India, Southeast Asia, obviously. $60 billion a year at the peak last year in 2019 spent in the emerging economies of Southeast Asia. So, the action in terms of energy investment, energy generation, installation, the deployment of these clean energy technologies has been here in Asia, the part of the world that I'm speaking to, and most of the startups in the audience, I think, that we're talking to here. And again, the fact that emerging economies have overtaken developed countries is something to remark on. But possibly even more significant, I think, is the fact that in that same 10-year period, when backtracking and doing a net addition analysis, what the UNEP Center at the Frankfurt School found is that the largest installed generation capacity by technology was in fact solar over the last decade. That's actually new news to me, and I've been a solar advocate since the late 1990s. This is a calculus based on new additions minus any retirements. And obviously there weren't a lot of retirements of solar plant over the decade. There were a lot of retirements of coal plant and gas and nukes and hydro over the decade. And as a result, already we've passed the point in the world where the biggest number of net megawatts installed goes to solar. And coal looks bigger, I think, than it really should reasonably, because within this bar on coal is India and China again. And I think China was 400 of those gigawatts and India was 100 of those gigawatts. So if you take away 500 gigawatts, the rest of the world is barely doing anything on coal as well. So wind would be a fair competitor. And obviously this is new additions to the global grids, but what it represents is a more than doubling in 10 years of the percentage market share of electricity generated or gigawatt hours consumed. So it went from 5.9% of the mix at the start of this period at the end of 2009 to 13.4% at the end of 2019. That rate of doubling is accelerating through the decade. 13.4, if you double it, obviously 26, 53, 4% by 2040. We're 100% by 2050 at this rate of doubling. And the fact that it's happening is now in the numbers. It's not disputed. It's clear as mud. And that is the scene that the conversations we're going to have over the next couple of days and the deep dives tomorrow for these companies that are coming up into this is very exciting. It's a very bullish proposition. But even better, and I'm going to throw in the steak knives next, is a study Goldman put out today. So my previous slides were from UNEP and BNEF and the Frankfurt School yesterday. But Goldman was reported to have done an analysis that suggests that, as it says, power, the electrical system and project investing in it is actually going to, for the first time ever in history, exceed upstream oil and gas investing next year. And you know, I get very excited about these trends because this is what we've been working towards for a couple of decades now in terms of phasing out fossil fuels. We are now the big end of town. I mean, it's been true for over 6-7 years now that in the electricity grid itself, renewables have been the mainstream and coal, gas and oil power infrastructure has been the alternative energy. That's been the case since 2012, really. But now we're saying that across the energy economy, renewable power will be the biggest area of spend. And the main reason Goldman analysts found this, and I think this will play to a lot of the ADB staff and the bigger end of the room bankers, is that what they're seeing is 20% borrowing rates. The cost of capital is somewhere in that range for the oil and gas guys. And we're trending towards 3% average interest rates for renewable power finance. You may not be seeing 3% on average in Southeast Asian and Asian markets yet. Certainly here in the States, I think that's true. And that difference and the fact that the world's awash with money actually, I think means that with the risk adjustment, they're willing to do a hell of a lot of renewable power. And so the summary of the Goldman study that came out today is that there'll be $1 to $2 trillion a year in infrastructure investment in clean energy over the decade. So through 2030, they projected $16 trillion. 16 trillion, that's sort of 5x what happened last decade. It creates 15 to 20 million jobs globally, most of those in Asia. So when you think about the new normal as the frame was set up, that's an enormous boon to countries coming out of the economic depression we're in because of the pandemic. And it's this high cost of capital for fossil fuel development that's really driving the bifurcation and will lead to a massive underinvestment in oil and gas, even with higher prices. That in turn will actually speed the energy transition. And so by the end of this decade, who knows exactly where we'll be, but we'll be closer to that sort of 100% vision that countries in Europe and elsewhere have set as goals. States like California, the 5th largest economy in the world, have as the law of the land for 2045. I think we'll be bringing that forward in the course of the 2020s because we'll achieve it anyway in the course of the 2030s at this rate. So that's sort of my scene setting note. And I just wanted to say a few words about New Energy Nexus, if I may, to just share with you that our mission is very much to support the startups here and in the audience with a range of programs, incubators, accelerators, and funds. We have a vision for 100%, which we've taken from California, where we've been since 2004. We invested in Tesla in 2006. So we've sort of been on the ride of disruptive technologies. We know what it takes to start up crazy ideas and get them to disrupt entire categories. We have spent a lot of time, as Daniel mentioned, in the last few years, establishing a presence in Asia because it's the battleground for climate, as I know the ADB is aware. And we do a bunch of work to build ecosystems of support for startups wherever we go. We're in a network with another 90 or so partners in 30 countries around the world and share a lot of best practice. You'll be learning more about New Energy Nexus from Stanley and the team tomorrow in the deep dives they're co-hosting. I know that some of you are involved in the Building Energy Challenge. So I won't go on any further than to just repeat my thanks for all the great work ADB does with ASEF and all the great work you're going to do. If anyone wants to contact me, here are my details and you can follow me on Twitter. Thank you.
Hi there. Thank you, Danny. That was really exciting. And of course, I love hearing your sort of your thoughts about the world and you know, being at the frontier is always sort of heartening to hear what's really happening versus sitting in the bubbles that ADB sometimes can be. Next, before we get into the meat of it, we're going to talk and listen to around 9 startups. So I just want to share the polling results so far, and there's a lot more positive. Let's see here. I just need to. I think we have pretty wide distribution on where people come from. There's no surprise that maybe majority of people are either from the public sector, development agencies and government, but also a fair amount of industry experts and consultants. But we do have a number of entrepreneurs, investors, and industry as well. So fairly diverse group of people. In terms of the impact the new normal had on energy tech, it's very positive to look at these results, of course. I'm glad to hear that no one in this room, at least, thinks that energy tech will be hit very badly. There'll be no bloodbath. And in fact, I think overall, on average, of course, there seems to be much more positives coming out of this and opportunities. And I guess we're going to hear a little bit more about it as we talk to the startups. But I would say what is up to 60% believe that the new normal is more positive than not, which is good. So, but let's hear from the guys who really knows it, which is the startups. We have mentioned we have 9 startups broken down into 3 different themes: low carbon buildings, sustainable mobility, and resilient grids. We're going to start off with low carbon buildings, where we have 3 startups: Envirid from the US, Smart Jules from India, and SensorFlow from Singapore. Let's just jump straight into it. Each startup has around 3-4 minutes to present. We have a 1 page. We ask people to aggregate their key points. We're going to do all 3 startups at once, following each other. And following that, we will have a short panel where I will ask a couple of questions, particularly about the new normal. But next, I would like to hand over to Dr. Biran from Envirid.
Hello. Thank you for ADB for inviting us to present here. Great opportunity and great conference. As Daniel mentioned, my name is Dr. Israel Biran. I'm one of the founders of Envirid System. Envirid is a Boston-based company focusing on developing technology that enable reduction in cost, in first cost and energy cost, and also better indoor air quality in buildings. So as you all know, buildings are a huge consumer of energy, a big target. And in buildings, the #1 energy consumer is HVAC. So we are targeting HVAC and basically disrupting the HVAC design and use by reducing the amount of outside air that is coming into building. The company is installed in over 10 million square feet, over 500 products, mostly in the US. We have some presence in Asia, in Thailand, in Singapore. The solution that we are offering is a product and technology called the HVAC load reduction, and this technology enable to achieve two goals, which are first to reduce the energy consumption of HVAC in commercial buildings, but also achieve a very important goal specifically now for indoor air quality. So really a unique combination that provide a dual benefit, which is very important for building owners and building tenants. The technology is targeting commercial buildings, office buildings, schools, malls, academic and government. It enabled to reduce first cost and actually downsize the size of the HVAC system in these buildings, provide up to 30% energy saving yearly on the HVAC cost, provide good indoor air quality, again, less outside air, less polluted outside air coming into the building, and actually the system replace the outside air by cleaning the indoor air, and a lot of lead and well point to enable building to achieve their green building target. The company is growing quickly in the US and is looking for partners and customers in Asia. And I'll be happy to tell more about the company tomorrow in the deep dive. Again, great to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Biran. It was very, very interesting, and I'm glad to hear also that Envirid is one of those 10 companies that we selected as part of the Energy Lab and the Building Challenge, which I mentioned and Daniel also mentioned. So I'm sure we're going to hear more about Envirid tomorrow, but also beyond that. Next, I would like to hand over to Arjun from Smart Joules to hear more about what they're doing in India, particularly in the hospital sector.
Thanks a lot. Good morning to all the energy enthusiasts and climate warriors from around the world who have dialed in to learn more about the work of 9 leading startups working on critical solutions to stop climate change and enable sustainable development. And thanks to New Energy Nexus and Adb Ventures for putting this together. I'm Arjun P. Gupta. I'm founder and CEO of Smart Joules. I started my career in the US Department of Energy's Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And since then decided to dedicate my entire professional life towards driving energy efficiency at scale, since it's the most cost efficient and immediate way to decarbonize our planet. So the way we look at it is that businesses lock in energy waste because of bad system design, bad equipment selection, and operational practices that are poor because of a number of factors, including lack of experience and training, skewed incentives, misallocated priorities, low levels of automation, and poorly understood trade-offs between first cost and life cycle cost. So, saving substantial amounts of energy is very difficult for businesses because of piecemeal and expensive solutions and somewhat broken business models. So what Smart Joules does is that we make energy saving simple, substantial, and profitable from day one for businesses by offering them guaranteed cost reductions through comprehensive technology upgrades and zero-cost business models. So we focus on complex systems such as air conditioning, similar to the speaker right before me, that require constant adjustments to various set points, owing to changes in external conditions like weather and pollution, and internal conditions like occupancy, water quality, equipment health, etc. The first market we target is large private hospitals that consume energy 24/7 and pay the highest tariff rates. And as of today, we've got most of the large private hospital chains in India as our clients, with projects in 15 cities and 8 states. So we've been able to drive energy savings between 15% and 73% of overall energy bills under long-term contracts with these clients, where they simply pay us a percentage of the savings that we deliver. So the key to the success of this business is the ability to generate the highest amount of energy savings per dollar invested and produce the lowest cost air conditioning through a mix of intelligent design and continuously optimized operations with the help of our IoT technology platform, which is called DJU. We are currently raising a Series A investment round to be able to grow our impact by 8 to 10x within our existing client base over the next couple of years, and also to establish a number of success stories across other sectors like pharmaceuticals that also have heavy and round-the-clock air conditioning loads. Eliminating India's waste only in central cooling can generate an annual recurring revenue of around $700 million for Smart Joules. This is locked-in annual revenue. And in the future, with the core capabilities of continuous optimization using data, we also plan to produce not only the lowest cost air conditioning, but also the lowest cost hot water and the lowest cost steam for business and factories, so they can focus on their core businesses while saving money. So I hope this sparks your interest and we have your support and encouragement as we scale towards our vision of efficiently managing the largest number of joules in India by 2025. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Arjun. It's very exciting to hear how you're transforming the Indian building sector. And we, of course, we'll be looking forward to have a number of conversations with you going forward. Next, I would like to introduce Sai from SensorFlow out of Singapore. over to you, Sai. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Hey everyone, I'm Sai, CEO at SensorFlow, and our vision is to make smart buildings a reality. And we are really on a mission to make every building more productive, energy efficient, and sustainable. And we've started off with hotels, hospitality as our first vertical. Now, it might not be surprising at all, but energy costs are, it's the second largest cost for hotels, and it represents anywhere between 3 to 6% of their total operating costs, and it's 60% of the total CO2 emissions. What we've done at SensorFlow is develop a retrofit wireless IoT solution that literally takes 5 minutes to install a hotel room, and you start automating that room's HVAC and start saving energy straight away. You see savings of up to 30% on your energy bill, and we're also collecting a lot of valuable data around occupancy, temperature, humidity, set point, energy consumption. That then makes it really easy to facilitate predictive maintenance, which improves your engineering and maintenance team's productivity, but also your overall operational efficiency of your housekeeping teams, guest services team, and even control humidity, especially in this part of the world where it's a huge problem. Now, the best part about our solution is it's a no upfront cost investment for the hotel, literally zero upfront cost, and very similar to Smart Joules, we also work on a pay-as-you-save model. So, it's literally a percentage of the savings that we achieve for the customer. We have about 10,000 hotel rooms across the Southeast Asian region. So across 7 countries, we have many sort of installed hotels, and we're actively expanding in this part of the world and also beginning our expansion into the European and American markets. We are looking for partners as well as investors who are interested in both equity and debt financing. So if you are one of these, please reach out to us. We'd love to have a chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for that. And I think these are 3 very impressive companies who's really transforming the building sector. I have a couple of questions to all 3 of you, and it'd be interesting, particularly as you're operating in different countries and slightly different sectors. One question I have is, like, first of all, of course, it would be interesting to hear, most of us are now sitting, at least myself, but I think most people are no longer in the office, for example. We work from home, and clearly the new normal is changing the way we're using buildings. How do you see the new normal affecting your particular business, both in terms of sort of short-term challenges potentially, but also are there new opportunities opening up that you maybe wouldn't have had 4 or 5 months ago?
Yeah,
So maybe
addressing that question. So, what has happened because of this new normal is a very steep increase in demand for solutions that save cost and also drive greater insights into operations. So previously, if it was taking 9 months to reach a customer, now we have clients who are coming to our door and saying we want to save cost, especially if there's no first cost. So, capital conservation, cost efficiency, reliability, predictability, deeper visibility into operations is something that all businesses want. So there is, quite a steep increase in the demand that we are seeing in the market. Of course, on the client sides, all buildings are really struggling because, all 3 companies that presented here talked about air conditioning, which is critical. There are new norms that are coming out, which are extremely difficult for the clients to, the building owners to actually live up to. For example, there's a new norm in one of the states where we work, which requires 100% fresh air to be introduced into the building, which is extremely difficult given the existing infrastructure. So, overall, the buildings are struggling, but the solutions that are technology driven and that enable cost efficiencies, the demand for those is just going up.
Yeah, and I can totally echo. Yeah, sorry, Daniel. Yeah, no, I can totally echo what Arjun is saying there. We're experiencing the same thing with hotels. We have a lot more sort of inbound customers asking us about energy savings and, how do they start to make a fixed cost of energy into a variable cost, because occupancy rates are going up and down all the time now. There might be potentially sort of second waves that come out as, economies start to open up. And for them, it's very much about how do we sort of control those costs as a function of that occupancy versus something that stays steady, because that can eat up into margins. And most hotels, if you're not part of a global chain, which independent hotels are sort of the largest number of hotels, you might not have a low break-even point like those guys. So you might need higher occupancy to actually break even. And so how do you reduce the second biggest cost there? We're also seeing a lot of interest in the data part of the solution, because using occupancy information, like understanding how occupancy trends are in the new normal, like when do guests leave their rooms, when do they come back, how long do they stay, can actually optimize your housekeeping schedule, especially now that you spend a lot more time sanitizing these rooms. Similarly for maintenance, you want to monitor that indoor air quality, you want to make sure that the system's working efficiently, filtering, because if it's not, you can actually detect that from the data that we have and get engineers to do that maintenance before any guests get worried, paranoid, or start complaining. And you don't want a bad review, not during this period.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would just add that we also see a lot of interest, of course, in indoor air quality. So people really want to make sure buildings are healthy and safe. So the combination between healthy building, good indoor air quality, and energy saving is actually really creating a lot of interest, much more than before. So I mean, we see a lot of for our business, a lot of positive outcome from the new normal.
I mean, it's really exciting to hear, because a lot of people would think that energy efficiency and these things is that, a lower priority going forward. But as I said, when you start linking it to both health and cost savings, it becomes a very different value proposition. And I know that both Flow and Virid, of course, you raised fairly large rounds recently. And I know that Smart Tools is growing very fast, so you're all in a very good position. Is there any particular area you think that in the building overall, do you see any particular area that you think that will be, so this is where the new opportunities, but is there something you think where will not work maybe in the new normal, that maybe it did work 6-7 months ago? So, areas where you think,
Yeah, so one of the things that happened with our business is, prior to COVID, when we did installations, we actually used to send one of our sort of installation managers to supervise local contractors to install our product. Obviously, that's not possible now because of all of the sort of closures and travel. And so we had to adapt very quickly. And now we are doing all our installs completely remotely. And funnily, we managed to install a lot more rooms during this period than before, because there is no travel involved. There is no need for sort of manpower allocation across different parts of the world. We just literally ship our hardware, get on a Zoom call, and guide the hotel team to do the install. And so that's part of the tech, like having that simple installation makes it super easy to continue servicing our customers, even during this period. And, it's actually sort of given us that edge now that we can continue doing remote installs, even post-COVID, even when things start to normalize.
This is like a new, better normal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is the same, just Arjun and Israel, is the same view as well? I mean, the remote working is clearly changing how you run your business, but is that also an upside, right? It's also an opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we see this also definitely as a US company with some project in Asia. We've done it. We moved everything to remotely, which we didn't do before, and it's working really well. So this is really something that I think here to stay. This is it works very well, and I'm sure we'll see more and more of that.
Okay, sorry, I think the pictures jumped around a little bit because one of our participants, but it will be, but it's it'd be interesting to see how the whole industry adapts and actually make it take to the next level. Of course, there's nothing like like a crisis to actually drive new innovations. To the audience, tomorrow, this was just a teaser on the low carbon building sector, and we heard from Envirid, Smart Tools, and SensorFlow. I would encourage everyone today is more interested in the sector to join tomorrow, where we'll spend 20 minutes with each company, including taking questions from the audience. And there's really an opportunity to dig deeper and ask these more specific questions around around their businesses. From this, and I will say thank you to all the presenters, Arjun, Sai, and Israel. Next, I would like to, we're going to move over to sustainable mobility. And we have 3 startups from there. It's a really exciting sector, and I think there's a lot of it happening. We have Tessol, who are transforming the cold chain, particularly the cold chain on wheels. Following that, we have Ojika and Bounce, 2 electric mobility startups. But I will hand over now to Rajat from Tessol.
Very good morning to everyone, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be at the Asia Clean Energy Forum. It's a very interesting setup now, being virtually there. Countries like India have been suffering through a huge amount of food loss and loss of quality of food over many years. And that's especially across the food supply chain, where the food supply chain itself is highly fragmented, both at the sourcing as well as the distribution end. With the retail sector also moving much more towards e-commerce and home delivery, the delivery sizes have become smaller. In fact, people have been, they're required to move products which are different in temperature. So you need to sometimes move ice creams with yogurts and yogurts along with milk powder. So there are different temperatures and different mixes. And the mantra is how you're able to deliver the smallest of packages to your customers and get them on board. The conventional cold chain solutions which are running off the vehicle engines are typically designed for 1 ton, 2 ton kind of products which have to move from one place to the other with maybe a few drops along the way. And they are also huge energy guzzlers. A small 1 ton vehicle would typically be consuming anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 liters of diesel per year just for refrigeration. So given the nature of the demand and the kind of our retail fabric, these conventional solutions no longer become, they're no longer viable or sustainable and are not able to really meet the demands. In such a situation, companies like Tessol, so we've commercialized a solution which is based on thermal energy storage technology, which basically uses innovative new age phase change materials along with the heat exchangers in order to ensure that we are able to offer a cold chain solution which ranges from from a 10-ton capacity to just down to 1 liter. Using these chemicals, we are able to we are able to store the thermal energy independent of the vehicles. And we are able to maintain temperatures for about 10 to 12 hours and almost extended now to around 72 hours. This storage technology has a life about 8 to 10 years. The costs are very, very affordable. And given the range, we are actually able to address to a much larger variety of applications. In fact, over the last few years, we've seen that the solution is so disruptive that it's able to offer a superior performance compared to conventional refrigeration at about 60% lower operating costs. And therefore, we've seen a lot of traction happening over the last 2 to 3 years. We've got on board a large number of retailers, including the Amazons, the Reliance, Grofers, companies like this. We've also been able to get a lot of brands on board, including Mondelez, Vadilal, which is a large ice cream company, Haldiram, which is a large sort of central kitchen company. So a lot of these brands have come on board and have adopted the technology and have endorsed the solution and the kind of savings and the flexibility that it offers. We've got more than a 90% repeat order rate with most of these customers, and that has given us the confidence that that we have actually been able to prove the value proposition, and we've been able to create a solution which matches the requirement of the market going forward as well. Therefore, with this kind of a success in the Indian market, we are very actively looking at expanding our horizons beyond India. We strongly believe that the Southeast Asian market is a great fit for the technology and the application, given that the kind of demographic, the kind of retail fabric is similar to that of India, if not exactly same. It's similar in nature. Even the price points are similar, and the pain points, based on our conversations with the market stakeholders, are similar. And therefore, we are very actively looking at getting partners from the cold chain ecosystem from Southeast Asia on board. These could be partners who are stakeholders across the cold chains. These could be either cold chain equipment manufacturers. These could be service providers, logistic providers, storage, in fact, food companies as well. And we'd really like to engage with them and see how we can actually bring this technology to this new market. While we expand the geographical horizons, and as we see some kind of scale coming in, we'll also be subsequently discussing with sort of potential investors regarding a fundraise. But that's something we would engage in post our sort of plans of expansion. So the immediate thing that we are actually looking for is the right kind of connect, right kind of partners in the Southeast Asian region for us to be able to expand into that market. Summarizing this, I would say that we've been able to prove this disruptive technology for distribution of perishables in India. We've proven through market adoption, through price points, performance. We believe that this kind of a technology, if commercialized, could impact thousands of businesses across Asia, Southeast Asia. And they'll help them reach out and deliver their brand promise to their customers at a much lower cost and to a much wider audience without having any environmental impact. So that's the vision that we are trying to fulfill at TESOL, and I really look forward to your support and help on the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajat. It's really exciting. I remember actually the first time when I met you and we look at the business, it was very, very early days, still PowerPoint days, and many, many years ago. So it's exciting to see all this progress and growth. And I can't wait for your solution to come to the Philippines. I had enough of sort of melted ice cream being delivered. Next, I would like to hand over to Jinsi from Ojika, who will talk more about their new solutions for e-mobility. Over to you, Jinsi.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jinsi from Singapore. We are offering a battery swap solution for electric motorbikes. So the problem now in electric vehicles, the biggest problem would be the battery. There are a few issues with the batteries. One is the upfront cost of the battery, which you have to enjoy the savings over the lifetime of the battery, right? Secondly, when you buy an electric vehicle, and specifically an electric motorbike, they usually put a cheap quality battery in there, and that is where you get the fire issues or the battery just doesn't last. And of course, one of the issues with batteries in electric vehicles is range anxiety, right? You run your motorbike, and after 50 kilometers, you run out of gas, and what do you do, right? You have to find a place to charge it up. If it's a lead acid battery, it takes 7 to 8 hours. If it's a lithium-ion battery, it takes 3 to 4 hours. So we are in the business of batteries. So if we lease a battery to a motorbike, we have to put a good construction and a good construct and quality battery in the motorbike, and we lease the battery to the e-motorbike rider. But that is not good enough, because in Southeast Asia, there just aren't enough motorbikes out there to lease to. So what we do is we do a bundling. So the correlation to that would be to think of a telecom company. Like in Singapore, we have Singapore Telecoms, right? If you buy a data plan, it comes with a mobile phone. Doesn't matter, it's a Huawei, an Apple, or a Samsung. So same thing. We bundle it with a local e-motorbike from the country they are working with. So in essence, we are bike agnostic. We are not a motorbike manufacturer. We do not compete with motorbike manufacturers. We supplement them. We bundle the motorbike regardless of what brand, and we put our battery in, and we sell it as a subscription plan. So to the consumer, it is like a no down payment and no deposit e-motorbike. So you come into the shop, you pay $60 and you walk out with a motorbike. Okay, and we can do that because we always know where the motorbike is, right? And to the financing company, we say, look, you know, we can send reminders. If they don't, we can turn it off and we can go ahead and recover that motorbike. So the advantage of this is that we help e-motorbikes to sell more motorbikes. So for example, in Singapore, Singtel sells more Apple phones than Apple stores in Singapore, right? And similarly, we help delivery companies go electric, because delivery companies can't buy these electric motorbikes if they can't swap the batteries, right? They can't have downtime charging. So we bridge these two, and of course it's a win-win for them and a win-win for us. We are asking for 3 million. We have launched in Cambodia, and we'll be piloting this for 1 year, and we are ready to launch in Indonesia, a much more exciting and a bigger market. That's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jinsy, and it's really exciting to hear about these new business models emerging in this space. And I'm looking forward to learn more about the business tomorrow. Next, I would like to hand over to a somewhat larger company is in a similar space, Bounce, which, as anyone who's been to India will probably recognize the brand. So I would like to hand over to Vinay from Bounce. Thank you.
Hi. Good morning, good evening, guys, wherever you're logging in from. It's exciting to be here and doing this for the first time, you know, through a webinar kind of a thing. And it's pretty nice for us to know that we're being watched from, you know, across the globe. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. I think it's also coincidentally, it's very nice that I'm coming in right after Jinsy and, you know, Oika, because this kind of sets the segue for us to talk about what we're doing next. So I think most of you will probably, you know, find it an oxymoron that in India, the minute you think about India or imagine India, the first thing that comes to your mind is, you know, crowded streets with, you know, lots of vehicles, a lot of noise, etc. But having said that, in spite of it, you know, you'd be surprised to know that less than 20% of Indians have actually access to personal vehicles. So large amount of, like, more than, you know, 75, 80% of the population actually, you know, have to depend on public transport or any other modes of commute to actually go from point A to point B. And this not only, you know, kind of put some stress existing, but also acts a lot of productive time for people to be spending on something so unproductive as commute. And there's also adding to the carbon emission, because most of the, you know, in terms of options that are available today out there are all fuel based. So what we as Bounce have, you know, introduced is to bring in a shared electric mobility service. This is a very smart, you know, dockless ride sharing kind of a solution that we brought in, where people can discover a bike on their app. You know, just download the app and then you discover the bike through that app. You know, you walk up to the bike, you access the bike with, you know, getting the ignition on through the app itself, access the boot to access your helmet, and then you can start your ride and, you know, go from your point of origin to your destination. You'll be charged only for the distance and the duration that you've taken it, and all of this in a very convenient and a nice electric vehicle. So this is really adding to, you know, in terms of reducing the carbon emission that's coming out of all the fuel vehicles that are out there on the streets, and also is giving out a very, very affordable solution to everybody in India to, you know, move from point A to point B. This also, if you were to just visualize, each of these bikes is actually effectively trying to take away about 6 to 8 private vehicles from the road. So because shared mobility essentially is going to decongest the roads and not, you know, add to the traffic that's already existing on the streets. So India has a very complex kind of a problem when it comes to commute or mobility. And we are trying to leverage the dominance of two-wheelers in the Indian market and solve using, you know, electric vehicles. So this we believe is going to be something that we can take beyond India. And that's where the journey is. So yeah, look forward to presenting a little more about our company in tomorrow's session. I will be happy to take any questions. So thanks a lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. And as a very, you know, it's a new emerging sector, of course, overall, particularly electric mobility. but also smarter supply chains, cold chain. Just would like to ask you all three, and if we can sort of create a small panel here. Again, similar to the buildings, of course, transport has its unique characteristics, and you know, social distancing and other things is coming into play. How do you see like the new normal affecting your business, both now in the short-term challenges, but also longer terms of new market opportunities?
Can I go on?
Please.
Yeah. So I think like the first, the session where three of the companies kind of also seem to have had an advantage over the post-COVID situation. I think a similar thing has happened to us as well. Of course, during the lockdown, I think, obviously a government mandated lockdown meant that people were not allowed to be mobile. So that period definitely affected us, where we couldn't put our bikes out there on the streets. But having said that, ever since the lockdown has been relaxed, I think we believe and we've seen that, people are now choosing a self-ride solution, especially on a motor vehicle like a two-wheeler, to be the preferred choice of commute, as opposed to being inside a contained environment of either a cab or even, a crowded bus or a metro or a monorail kind of a solution. So obviously, we see that this is going to only, catch on, where people believe this is the safest mode of commute. We've also, had a smart solution of, in terms of bringing a particular thing, what we call as a germ shield, where we sanitize our bike. And these are proven to be, the solution is proven during the SARS and other such viruses, where any kind of a surface-based or a droplet-based virus contamination can be safeguarded from for almost a good 90 odd days. So our bikes are extremely in a sanitized condition and safe, because you can just sport your own, a pair of gloves and your own helmet, and you're almost devoid of any human interaction. This potentially is one of the safest mode to commute. So we've seen an uptick in terms of ever since the post-COVID lockdown is relaxed, a lot of people coming back and using our bikes.
Interesting. Jinsy and Rajat?
Okay, this is Jinsy from Oika, and I agree to that. We work with delivery companies, right? And they want to lower the cost of per unit cost for delivery. And the way to do it, of course, is to go electric. Electric motorbike on an unsubsidized market is still more competitive than is cheaper than petrol. In fact, in Indonesia, it is cheaper than subsidized petrol. So again, it's the bundling of a battery swap with the motorbike. The guy prefers to sell away his own motorbike, get some cash up front, and then lease a motorbike from us on a no contract, on a weekly lease, right? You have business, you go ahead. You don't have business, that's fine. So it is tough to sell new electric vehicles or new vehicles this COVID era 19, but that presents new opportunities if you offer a lease model, and of course a battery swap, you can do everything yourself. Nobody needs to swap the battery for yourself. That's all I have for now.
Yeah, hi. This is Rajat from Tesol. So, Daniel, I think our for us as well, the impact has been positive, and I think the impact going forward will also be positive. The primary reason being, in a country like India, people have started really valuing the hygiene, and they've started valuing the quality of the product and the form and package that they receive it in. The second, therefore, a lot of people who used to buy produce from just anywhere are actually trying to look for more value. Sort of value-added services, and in this case, a lot of our customers have been able to really increase their market share. If you think about the poultry market, 90% of the poultry market in India is unorganized. They buy from local butchers, but the balance 10%, which is being delivered by these larger companies who have all the hygiene factors, etc., they've had a ball during this period. They've all been stocked out by like 11 a.m. in the morning. Just because people are demanding higher quality stuff, they're also reaching out and they're buying and preserving frozen food in their fridges. So I think the overall demand for good quality food, which has traveled through the cold chain, is higher. And at the same time, given the whole burst in the demand for home deliveries, the distributed cold chain solutions have been hugely in demand. So within the cold chain itself, the sectors that we deal with, which is urban distribution of perishables, has really seen a huge uptake in demand. And I think this is something which is to stay. It may not stay in a similar proportion, but I think it's going to stay, and it's going to usually change the way consumers actually buy.
Excellent. Thank you so much for hearing this. And it's, again, just like the buildings, it always amazes me how many opportunities comes out of this. When you do read the news, everything looks like doom and gloom. But there are those who can move fast and those who can see the opportunities. Obviously, there are things to do here, an opportunity to grow. We have no more time for questions now, but as I said to everyone in the audience, tomorrow we will have a deep dive into all these three companies, Ojika, Bounce, and Tessol. So please keep your questions ready for them then, and really to penetrate their technologies and business models and so on. So thank you all three. Next, we're going to move over to the last thematic part of it, which is resilient grids. And is really looking around the solutions that can improve the way we produce and deliver energy. And we have three companies with us from around the world. We have Village Energy from Australia that are doing some really exciting things, particularly in India. We have Gridshield, also from India, who's helping the way we are managing our increasing portfolios of renewable energy assets. And finally, we have FlowGen calling in all the way from Switzerland very early in the morning. So next, I'm going to hand over to Village Energy and Wayne. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Daniel, for the opportunity to talk here. So my name is Wayne Lubinskis. I'm a co-founder in Village Energy. We're an energy technology company headquartered in Australia, but we're focused on utilities in the emerging markets, particularly of Asia. And what we do is digitize the last mile of the electricity grid and then use machine learning and artificial intelligence to make the grid cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable. So in these emerging markets, many people think about lack of access to energy as people having no electricity. But the reality is that there's more than 4 billion people who have access to the grid, but they're getting unreliable electricity and poor quality electricity. And this consumer group is actually also one of the fastest growing general consumption, and with that is their energy consumption. So they're very strongly underserved. The utilities that are trying to serve them are typically capital starved. They need to spend more than $3 trillion over the next decade or so just to keep up with that demand. And unfortunately, the economics for the utilities are often pretty poor. Most of them are losing money, or many of them are losing money. Many are losing money at the gross margin level. So they're losing more money with every unit of energy that grows. There's a lot of reasons for that, because there's subsidies and political promises, there's energy theft, there's a whole range of issues that are causing those problems. And the typical, in fact, the only way to solve unreliable power in the past has been to build more infrastructure. But that becomes quite difficult in a world where you're capital constrained and you've got poor economics. So what Village Energy does is focus on using advanced technology to get more out of the infrastructure, improve the operating economics of the utilities, and thereby also improving the experience for consumers. We've designed a low-cost IoT metering device and control device. We use that to digitize everything below the low voltage transformer, including the transformer. And then we distribute logic down to that local level, and we manage the grid in real time so that we optimize things technically, economically, and environmentally to get an outcome. The project that we've done in India, in Andhra Pradesh, has delivered some pretty amazing results with a 30% reduction in the cost for the utility per kilowatt hour, a 75% reduction in the number of outages for the consumer, a reduction in peak load of 13%, and an elimination of peak load events. Consumers are also saving money and have much more control and a convenient experience, and their satisfaction levels are significant. Our business model is to sell to the utility. We charge them a subscription platform fee per month per connection. We have three customers, three utility clients, which may not sound like a lot, but by virtue of that, we have access to more than 50 million customers that are within the scope of those three utilities. So it's a really strong opportunity. We are currently raising for our Series A, but we're keen to talk to customers, partners, or investors, particularly those that have relationships and strength in South Asia and Southeast Asia. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne, so much. I mean, you know, of course, we've been in discussion. Is a very, very interesting way of solving some of the big problem facing the energy sector. And I do encourage people to listen in more tomorrow when Wayne will dig deeper into his solutions. Next, I would like to hand over to Max from Gridshield to talk about their solution around how to improve the value of solar assets.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to join this call. I'm here to talk about Gridshield. We are a startup with a hub in Singapore and also subsidiaries in India. If you look at the problem that we're trying to solve, you know, as renewables take over in terms of asset installations, the performance of these assets still continue to be inefficient. One area of inefficiency is in the dusting and cleaning, which, you know, is a big phenomenon all over the Southeast Asian belt. In this area, we have come up with an automated cleaning solution for solar panels, which will improve the efficiency of the panels from 7 to 15%, which is significant, especially in the era of grid curtailment, where these solar plants are hit in a big way in terms of curtailment. So every percentage improvement in efficiency gives them a significant boost. The way we do it is using AI algorithm, which is self-sufficient and site-dependent. The algorithm varies depending on which site it is, because dusting itself is a complex stochastic phenomenon and also Brownian in nature. Right? So that's the first product. We have developed it jointly with GE, and we are deploying it in multiple sites all over India and in Philippines. Now, the backbone of that is really the IoT platform, which is CloudSolve, which is a remote monitoring and control platform, which incorporates weather forecasts, etc. So you have predictive analytics built into the platform. The third solution is more on the home front, called HomeSolve, where you combine energy automation, demand management within a community based on utility parameters. That way you can control various heavy loads by doing demand segregation, demand management. As a part of that solution, we are also working on a P2P energy trading platform. Once the energy optimization is accurate, then the trading becomes more optimal. So that's a plug and play type of solution that we have. Those three are already being commercialized, and we are in Series A mode, trying to raise $3 to $3.4 million. And we are looking for more partners in Southeast Asia as we grow the business, and customers and also investors.
Many thanks, Moxon. It's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to learn more about your solution tomorrow, and you can see significant applications across Asia for it. Last but not the least, middle of the night in Europe, I will ask Tom from Flogen to take over and talk more about their way of addressing the energy challenges of the world. Thank you, Tom.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to present Flogen. My name is Tom Clausen. And before I describe the value proposition of Flogen, let me just address the problems that we are facing. First of all, there are way too many people on this planet that do not have electricity or use diesel generators, which we all know are polluting. At the same time, we will need a lot more energy, be it from electric vehicles, but also, particularly in Southeast Asia and Africa, will have a higher need or higher demand for electricity. But if you look at the smart grids that are around, 99% of the smart grids basically just consist of solar panels. There is a big opportunity, and I think that's where we come in. So we are combining our disruptive small wind turbines with solar and storage. And we are not from the wind industry, we are coming from the automotive industry. And we have leveraged technology, particularly aerodynamics technology, materials, as well as mass production, and transferred all these very proven assets from the automotive industry into the wind industry. Now, solar and wind are very complementary. Think of day and night, or think of the climate changes. You know, we'll have a lot more wind. We have a lot more cyclones. Many of you, I'm sure, sit in Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, or in the Pacific Islands. You know what it means when you have monsoon or heavy rainfalls. The efficiency of solar panels decreases radically. So that's why solar and wind are very complementary. Now, what are the advantages that we bring to the table? Well, first of all, our wind turbine is really small. The rotor diameter is only 5 meters for a 10 kilowatt nominated power wind turbine. It is very light. You know, the powertrain is 160 kilogram. For comparable wind turbines, you know, we are 300 to 500% lighter. Now, obviously, the efficiency is always very important. And we are more than 50%, leveraging, you know, aerodynamics from the automotive industry, using composite material. This is also the reason why our wind turbines are so light. Now, the other aspect that is important that you hardly find in the wind industry is the scalability. The scalability from kilowatts to megawatts. If you look at the picture on the right-hand side, you see this Swiss cheese wall. You know, this consists of concrete, and the green foil, that's solar foil. So we can basically, according to the requirements and the needs of the user, scale wind turbines so that you have kilowatts or you have megawatts. We are very cost competitive because we are using mass production. And we have ready to go structures that integrate on one hand the construction element, but also the electrical requirements. Noise level, as you can see, is very low. Now, the main question is always, well, how do you make sure that you have the right location, the right height, as well as the right mix between solar and wind? Well, here we use CFD analysis. CFD stands for Computational Fluid Dynamics. And it's a 3D model, and we use 10-year satellite data on solar and wind. And this helps us to get the right locations, the right height, and if we can, we use existing heights, roofs of buildings, for examples. And as I said, the right mix. Another important aspect is digitalization. Our wind turbines contain sensors. We can do real-time monitoring of the performance of our wind turbines. At the same time, we can collect very valuable data, such as finders, solar radiation, wind regime, and so on and so on. We upload this data, we analyze the data, and then we do forecasts. This is a completely different, very interesting, highly scalable cash flow stream besides selling the wind turbines or selling the systems, solar, wind, and battery. So what is it that we're asking? We are in a B round, and we are looking for up to 10 million. Obviously, we also look for new partners and new customers in Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan, or in the Pacific Islands. And this will be our last round of financing. We will do about 5 to 6 million euro this year and about 20-25 million next year. And we are targeting an exit. This could be a trade sale. This could be an IPO by 2026. So far, we have focused on Southeast Asia, as well as on German-speaking Europe. And we already have 40 plus projects in the pipeline, and some of them will complete this year. I think that's all that I want to share today, and I hope that you will listen to the longer presentation tomorrow. Thank you so much for your interest and for your time.
Thank you so much, Tom, and I can't wait to see one of your installations in Asia sometime soon. Just to finish off now, I'd like to ask the presenters here around the resilient grids a couple of questions. Of course, you're all addressing slightly different challenges in terms of energy, the energy grid. But just as the other one, I'd be interested to hear your view on how the new normal has affected you. And I think you're all also fundraising at the moment. So how do you see both your own business, but also the risk appetite out there being affected positively or not?
Yes. So if I can start, you know, the new normal, you know, the impact of COVID-19 hasn't really impacted our sales and marketing activities in German-speaking Europe. The challenge has been a little bit, although we address this challenge with, you know, video conferencing calls as relates to prospects in Southeast Asia because, you know, of the travel restrictions. And, you know, there's only so much you can do with video calls, but at the end of the day, you have to meet the prospects, the customers, maybe government officials. And so as it relates to the business in Southeast Asia, you know, we are delayed. However, the interest is as high as it was before the eruption of this virus. Fundraising, you know, there is interest. I think it takes longer. We are coming out of the first wave of this virus, and hopefully there will be no second wave. We just have to work hard, you know, to get the interest of the investors and then convert the interest into commitments to our fundraise.
Okay, yeah.
Wayne and Max, what's your perspective on the new normal?
Yeah, no, I think the new normal is interesting because newer business models is what will solve the current problem, right? So we had a sort of a mixed business model where we had product sales, project sales, and SaaS based revenue generation, and also services based business. So we are focusing more on the SaaS side, which helps us grow more rapidly. So, and it's a very asset light model. The CloudSolve remote monitoring platform, for example, is simply asset light, and that way we are able to grow, you know, in the near future, even with the advent of COVID, because the performance characteristics of panels and how the remote monitoring adds value in that area, you know, is we are seeing the benefits of that. And as far as investors are concerned, I think you know, the good business model and solid team is what will get us to the right you know, set of investors. And obviously there's delay because of COVID, but I think we're getting there eventually.
Yeah, from our perspective, there's definitely been an impact. We're traveling often from Australia. My co-founder is based in Chennai, and you know, the travel restrictions no doubt have had a challenge. But there's also been, with every problem creates opportunity. So there's more of a need to think about digitization and the way that the utilities are managing their grid. And it also puts pressure on the ability to actually deliver larger scale infrastructure projects. So it's created an opportunity for us to change the nature of that conversation. And it's often, most people, or many people in the utilities industry, when they think about solving the problems, they just think big infrastructure projects. So it's created an avenue to really change that conversation. In terms of financiers, it's actually been quite an easy change in most of the conversations. I think it does impact on due diligence processes where venture firms can't travel locally and to visit a project. But you can do a lot of things virtually, and I think that's been allowed us to progress pretty well.
Thank you so much. No, it's fascinating to hear the different perspectives. Also, of course, it contrasts a bit from the other sectors. But we will all have an opportunity to learn more all about your business tomorrow. So we're going to try to wrap up now. I actually think we have a couple more minutes, and I'm going to also hand over to Peter Story. But thank you all, and very excited about learning more about your businesses tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. You make go. I will just sorry. I just before I hand it over to Peter, if I just like give you a quick, because PFAN is a very important organization to us, and just want to give them the credit for. Peter is as many of you know, I think many people in the audience knows Peter Story. He's the global coordinator for PFAN, the Private Financing Advisory Network. As I know, and most others know, that PFAN has played a critical role in really catalyzing the clean energy industry, not just in Asia, but also around the world, by bringing together product developers, in particular, with capital providers. PFAN has also been a very close partner to us at Adb. I think this is the third year running we're organizing this kind of showcasing sessions like this one together with Peter Story, but also Peter DuPont and his team. So I really want to say thank you to PFAN for all the support for the past few years. Peter Story, as you know, I mean, he's been 20 plus years in this industry, come from a background of product development, financing of projects, structuring of projects, probably knows anything you need to know around renewable energy projects. So over to you, Peter, and looking forward to hearing your closing remarks. Thank you.
Daniel, thank you so much for those very kind words. You've actually stolen my thunder almost. I was going to say a little bit of some of that in a slightly different way, perhaps. But very pleased to be able to join you this morning. It does feel a bit strange not to be in Manila at this time of year. You've commented on the last 3 years that we've supported an event showcasing projects with Adb Ventures. I commend Adb and the bank and USAID for getting ASEF off the ground virtually this year. I hope the new normal in the future is a mixture of virtual and physical. I do hope we'll be able to go back to physical meetings sometime in the future. But let's hope that we can also learn from these virtual experiences and take the best of both worlds going forward. You know, I think we've heard some really interesting tasters this morning about the energy transition. I do hope that our audience will join us tomorrow for the deep dives into the 3 sectors that we've showcased. I think, you know, from PFAN's perspective, projects, project development, project preparation, mobilizing investment into the energy transition, this is our business, and we will continue doing that to the best of our ability, supporting our partners such as Adb Ventures, supporting other impact investors, supporting, of course, the work that New Energy Nexus is doing to bring these communities together. You know, I do think these showcases are vitally important. It's a chance for projects and businesses such as we've heard this morning to present their wares, tell us what's possible in the future, and for us to really be able to bring investment into them to secure that future. And certainly that's what PFAN is all about. A few words about the experience that PFAN is having through the new normal. You know, we are currently working with something like 280 projects around 3 continents, Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean and Southern America. I think it's pretty universal that the positives outweigh the negatives. Certainly what we've been hearing this morning is what we're seeing through our network, through our projects that we're working with. And that's really encouraging. And I do think we have an opportunity here to bring the new business models that we've been hearing about to the fore, and moving away from the old entrenched business models that perhaps won't serve us so well in the future. So there are opportunities here. And I would just really encourage all the audience, and thank you for joining us today, all the participants in this call and session, to join one of the sessions tomorrow, one of the deep dives tomorrow on whether it's the buildings, whether it's the mobility, or whether it's the smart grids. Please join us tomorrow to hear more about those opportunities, to perhaps think about partnering with some of those companies that we've heard about in brief today, and for all the investors out there to perhaps think about investing in that future. To the extent that PFAN can, we will support these projects, we will support new projects coming through, and we look forward to working with you, Daniel, and your team, and with other investors in this space to make this transition happen even more quickly than it already is. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll leave it there, and looking forward to the sessions tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Peter. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow as well. Well, that's really all for today. And this is really part 1, and I hope you enjoyed it and got a good broad feel. I want to say thank you again to Danny, to Peter, but most importantly to our entrepreneurs out there that every day is sort of working hard to really change the energy sector in Asia and beyond. Tomorrow we will have our part 2, which is really, as mentioned, will be a deep dive into companies you heard about today. There will be no keynote speeches, there will be no scene setting. We will go straight into learning more about these startups. We have broken it down again, it's like today, into 3 sections: buildings, mobility, and grid. Each company will get 20 minutes, including 10 minutes of moderated Q&A from the audience. There is a link here on the slide, a bit.ly link where you can sign up, but we'll also find other ways of sharing how you can get access to this particular session. This will be slightly smaller virtual rooms, I think up to 100 people. So please make sure you come early, and please make sure you keep your seat. And you can drop in and out different sessions if you just want to listen to buildings, mobility, or grid. You're most welcome to do that. But I do think we have 9 really interesting companies to learn more about tomorrow. And we will also put this link, I think, on social media like LinkedIn, and we will make sure in some way or another that you're all aware how to be involved tomorrow. But with that, I would like to say thank you to all, and have a pleasant rest of the day, night, or morning, wherever you might be. Thank you.